Okay, just for those who can't make it. Hi, welcome to class. This is Jordan, Christine, you know Jordan, obviously. Tina, Jordan. She has been a client of many people, but Maria does her color, and I don't know, who's cutting your hair really?
I mean, I got right now. I'm going back to my ladies that just currently cut it.
Got it.
I mean, we used to cut it back in the day.
Yeah.
But I miss like.
She misses me, so she texted me, and so she was like, I need you to thin my hair out like you thin my hair out. And so I'm like, okay, I know, I'm the best in the world. I'm just kidding. No,
Learn.
This is vertical blocking, and vertical blocking is the technique, the French technique that follows balayage. It's just for whatever reason balayage is blown up here, but vertical blocking never really blew up. So what I'm doing is, or what I'm going to do today is, so I'm just going to talk about how I go through the hair, and basically looking at what needs to be cut and how to cut it. So, yeah. So a lot of times people only need this like kind of behind the ear, but that's just not the case with Jordan. She needs it everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work in sections. So I'm going to work behind the ear, and I'm going to take these inch sections, and I'm going to work, in front of the ear. I'm going to start in front of the ear, work that front end. So when you look at her hair, one thing that's interesting about Jordan's hair is very unusual. Her thickness is super dense in the top part of her hair. So a lot of times, this will be thicker, but you can kind of see where the thickness lies. So with vertical blocking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mimic those ribbons, or I am going to mimic those ribbons in the hair. So some of the perimeter already fell down. I'm going to go ahead and cut, and that's weak there. And then here, I'm going to really create, so essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep strength in the ends and cut bulk out. So you want to create those natural ribbons in the hair. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. See?
She was ready for it.
Yeah, she's honestly got, and so this kind of stuff will last multiple haircuts. This will last her, 7 months. Some of these cuts, as it starts to grow out, she'll get irritated with her thick hair and want it done again. But that's really what we're doing, is we're mimicking those ribbons in the hair. And she's like, get it cut out. She's like, I'm dying here. And you don't, obviously, when you're, so there's things to keep in, when you're doing it, it looks easy, right? It looks easy. I make it look easy. I'm kind of aware that when you get in here and you start to cut it, what you need to remember, you're not sliding, you're cutting. And so I'm cutting the hair. And that's what you're trying to do is you can move the scissor, or you can just cut. So what's important when you're closing the scissor, if you're moving it, as long as it's closing faster than it's moving, you won't slice the hair, which will cause individual strands to get kind of torn apart, and the hair doesn't feel good afterwards. But we're not tearing any of her hair, we're just cutting the bulk out, if that makes sense. And so you got to keep in mind, the front of the hair has this much, and the back of the hair has twice as much. So like I said, a lot of people really don't even need it in the front. Jordan's just an exception because she's got such crazy thick hair. But you can even see everything's a little different. But even this side, you see the density is really in the top of her hair, the majority of it. So I do like to get a little movement in the scissor. I feel like I can get it a little softer. So I move it. I'm moving my scissor while I'm cutting. But the cutting, as long as you're cutting fast and you're sliding, it won't like pull the hair. Does that make sense?
Can I say something on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing what I love about him. You can tell, like, when I've had other people thin out my hair, I feel like they're like tearing at my roots. With him, it's like silk. Like,
yeah.
It feels like there's nothing being pulled to my roots. That's when I know it's a different technique. So.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to add to that.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's kind of like I think that's all create. It's not only is it a better experience. It's not only is it better for the hair. It's a better experience. You know, it's kind of like with a clipper. You can push that clipper in the head, or you can just have that real soft touch. You know, while you're fading, makes it really nice experience. But it's important to see, you know, just seeing where I'm cutting and that's still got hair on the ends, right? Because what happens is when you go in there and just point at the ends, then her hair's just not strong on the ends. It's like a mushroom. Which there's a time and a place for cutting. There's a time and a place for cutting the ends of the hair. That's to blend the haircut, you know, to make it look soft. So we were just talking to Lee. I'm basically mimicking, but what's interesting about Jordan's hair, so you're cutting ribbons in the hair. I'm mimicking, so you can keep the ends of the hair strong, so you can cut bulk out. And what I'm saying is you're cutting the scissors, you're cutting fast. As long as your scissors cutting faster than it's moving, won't pull the hair out of the head. And so I worked each area, the front of the ears, and honestly, her hair still feels pretty thick to me. So, and sometimes I'll just go in here and I'll go at a diagonal after all that's said and done, and just try to get a little bit more out of some of this. And you just got to be careful you're not cutting into the top of her hair, you know, so you don't end up cutting through that whole piece. And a lot of this is just feeling her hair with my hands. Like, how does it feel? What's interesting about Jordan's hair, Emily, what we were showing everybody, is that the top of her hair is the densest part. Like this, it's not, and so everyone's a little different, but that area is just so thick on the top. But yeah, it's a lot of just feeling her hair, and because you can go in there and cut it, and then you just want to feel the density in your hands. You just gotta. I feel like a lot of hairdressing for me, this side note, has always been feel. When I'm going through it, I'm cutting layers in someone's hair, and to me, like, there's still just some of this that just feels like I could just take a lot more of that. So I'm gonna go back in that area real quick and get a little bit more. But when it comes to cutting hair, when I'm cutting layers and stuff, like, yeah, I do a guide, but for me, I know where the head, like, I'm going around the head, I'm paying it, I can just feel like that's where as far as I came off. So I'm not, if you can't fully see that guide, you know what it feels like. I feel like there's a lot of feel to hair cutting. And this hair too, like when you ribbon it like that, it waves up nicer, styles a little bit easier. It really just helps. It works for them, I feel like, right?
100%. I was telling Christina, I said, if my hair is, if the wig take it out properly, then I'm good. It doesn't matter the length.
That hair right there, it just is so thick in this spot. It's crazy. Like, see, I've been cutting into this thing. It's just still got a lot of hair there. So, you point at the end of this hair, the ends, not much changes. I just want to soften that up because I kind of had like I don't want her to have a bunch of chunks in her hair either, so you want it to be soft. It's crazy, honestly. This is an unnormal. So I use such a good example because for someone like Jordan, I would literally, I would have a haircut mostly where I'm just doing this, and then, the next haircut focus more on the shape or whatever. Here's a journey. It's kind of like when you're highlighting. Sometimes you focus more on brightening the ends, or sometimes you focus more on. That's starting to feel a lot more consistent and better to me. This is a little, and she'll feel through it and tell me too. Like, she'll be like, I want more cut out here. And I've kind of learned, more is better for Jordan, because she's okay with it, even if it's like if I go too far, a little too far almost. You know, she just wants it cut down. So now I'm gonna work. I'm gonna work from the back of this ear to the back of that ear, and I'm just working like a pie across the head. But and I'm never cutting on the hairline because I don't want her to have like a bunch of little pieces right on the bottom that that fall out when she does a ponytail. So you can either just flick it down with like your scissor, or you can just like let it naturally fall out. It will. But I'm gonna go ahead and get some of that out. This is where it's at though. Like, so I'm gonna try to create create strength. It's interesting because you can create strength while you remove weight. You know, I mean, we just still have. It's better for the hair. And for people, you know, like vertical blocking too, like can help people grow their hair out. Like people that have their hair only grows a certain length, like you can strengthen up areas to keep the hair from shed or, you know, breaking off. But you have to. That's like what's like they call that level 10 or God mode or whatever. That's like when you really have a lot of control. So I'm trying to cut where I'm looking, so that's a little thin, you know? I'm gonna cut that out. That makes sense?
Yeah. When you're pulling these sections together, are you taking pieces of your last section too? Is that how you're getting this little bit of a guide, or is this going off of last?
Hair naturally ribbons like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just picking up sections, and it naturally will ribbon. Like it's just going to. It's naturally going to have those ribbons in the hair. Now, if you see it like this is too big of a section, that's just a little too big. Now, I would even go after it with her, but just for the sake of like, you know, it's like you start off with smaller sections when you're doing something and you're learning how to cut hair. But there's an appropriate size here. Like, and I'm just gonna go in there. I'm gonna cut that. I'm gonna cut that. That spot's weak, but that's, see what I'm saying? Like, I'm creating strength in that piece. Like, that's the thinner part of her hair, but there's strength to it now. So, I'll go ahead and cut that out. And I'm cutting everything underneath. I'm staying underneath the hair. That's what I'm comfortable with. My mentor who taught me this, he cuts down on a lot of it. So, he would go in the hair, and a lot of times he worked on a diagonal, but this is kind of how it's vertical blocking. The diagonal always makes things softer. So he always worked on a diagonal, and he would cut underneath and then cut on top. He would cut like a triangle on every piece. But I just found this is my rhythm, and so I just cut from underneath mostly. It's almost there's certain people where I get in there, I'm like, oh, I should cut down on that. It just makes sense to me. I think maybe the haircut style kind of determines that too. So I could try cutting down on top of that, or cut up. Let's split this into two. Go in there. So now, I should probably go in there in the middle of those two. Create two more. And what I'll do is I'm gonna work across this back of her head, and then I'll probably clip it up and do a little bit more underneath here too, because I'm kind of working in a full, big, long section. But that's a lot of hair. That's a pretty good one to look at. And so, honestly, when you get moving like that, that's why I took the backs of my scissors off, these little rests, because when you're cutting like that, you'll bump their head, and that little rest dig right into their head. And so that's why I took all those little things off. So that's something to consider. I'm like a sensitive person. people call them HSPs, but highly sensitive person. So I was always really, really aware of the feeling people have while they get their hair cut or anything goes on, really. So I want it to be a really great experience. You know, Zach, I always go on to Zach because he's so rough on the hair. He's so rough with people's head. I love Zach. We're different. We're different.
It's genuine. I truly enjoy when he does this. It's like I get what he's saying. I'm like, that's why. I'm like, it is. I'm like, this feels so good. I don't even know why, but I get what you're saying.
Because you know relief is coming.
Yeah, and I'm
Is
like,
that the main difference between the finisher and this method?
Well,
Like
finish
just
here.
make the client comfortable?
Make the client comfortable, but also with a thinning shear, you know, and you can use it many different ways. But if I went in here with a thinning shear, all this just gets weakened. But when I'm cutting with a scissor, so I'm looking at the ends, and so because I'm cutting the weaker areas, I'm leaving strength in the ends while removing bulk. So that's why when I'm cutting out of here,
Basically, he's
See-
making blocks.
yeah, it's like little triangles. See how all that hair is still on the ends? I'm cutting out the thinner areas around that. So you see all that. So where it's thin here, if I cut in the thin areas,
Well, you want to cut in the thinner areas.
yep. See how I cut all that out, and I still have all that hair right there on the ends of the hair. Still have all that end. So you're removing more bulk in the hair and not just thinning out hair all over. It's just a lot more intentional. Does that make sense? Get on a mannequin. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And get comfortable with the movement. And people with really, really
Because I'd
thick
be
hair.
terrified to do this in real life.
Hey, that's honest. And honestly, I was terrified to do it at first. You know? It was a scary thing. Have you been painting?
Is there paint in my hair?
There's a little paint.
Yes, I have.
Just a little bit. It's funny.
Really?
Just a
Even
speck
from
or
a
two.
wash?
Oh yeah. Wash isn't gonna get.
The paint. I know. My daughter and I are painting.
Okay.
Oh man.
It's all good.
What color is it?
White? Is that right?
Is it white paint? I mean, I'm using all colors.
It's okay. It's
We are on a painting month for
just a
sure.
little
So.
bit. I've done the same, honestly.
Hold on, hold that section like that.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I was gonna show Christina how it looked like those blocks in the hair.
Blocks?
Yeah.
After
So
he cuts the section, maybe you'll be able to see it. Do you see how he took those blocks out and then left?
Look like a weave highlight?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then guess what? When you go back in there,
you can just weave it.
and
Not
seriously, when you're cutting hair after you're doing a highlight, you can kind of like cut the highlight to look a little better. You really can, yeah. Like, especially if you're wanting it to stay blonde on the ends, you go in there and cut all the dark out after you've blonded it.
Yeah.
So you look at the dark areas and cut those out and keep the blonde on the ends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It works for
yeah.
this.
It does. It does. I mean, you know, and so it's just a lot of hair.
She likes that.
That's right.
That's what I like.
That's right. And like you can do this. Girls that have real wavy, thick wavy hair, you can just cut those bigger ribbons. You know, and longer. If it's a little longer and wavier, you know, that's a good. They'll love that. Their hair just waves up real nice. Let's see here. So I don't know. I leave my station, you know, most of the week. It's only but my lips disappeared.
Yeah, my comb and my mirror disappeared. Okay, come on. When did you do this?
Saturday.
Who did it?
My friend Shayna.
Go ahead and do what you want to do.
Just went ahead and did it.
What you want to do.
What is that one?
Maria Calmini.
That's funny.
So it's like interior layers.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And that just gets a lot more bang for your buck while leaving the, you know, the ends stronger. I mean, like, it's definitely softer, but if I were to cut that much hair out of doing this, you know, it would just be gone. There wouldn't be any hair left. But you're able to cut a lot of bulk out of the hair, and then she's still got her length. She's got her perimeter.
No, I'm like, I'm gonna touch it. I just blow dried it. I
There you
want
go.
to see how I feel now.
Oh yeah. And so you can do it wet.
yeah, it feels
You
good.
can do it wet or dry. And I've probably done both on you. I
Put
don't
y'all see
know.
what your back home will be like.
But I just feel like your hair, I like it better
It
dry
do,
so I
it
can
will.
feel it better.
Yeah. I don't think
I learned that.
And she'll,
yeah, that already
Yeah.
feels like
yeah. Go ahead. She loves to tell me too, which is great. I think that if your client can tell you where it's still full, then you're not going to cut something they don't want. They're going to tell you where to cut it, you know.
Yeah.
But we've done this a lot.
Yeah.
At this point, I know where your
you
hair's
know my
thickest.
hair, so
Yeah.
I literally know where your hair's thickest at this point.
No one else will
When
do
y'all
it.
color it last?
make sure that's it.
Cool.
Because that's, other than that, it's very
That's the best I think I've ever done with you.
No, you've always done it like.
Well, I'm just
perfect.
saying, as in, like, not being too timid or, you know. So she's saying it's a little, still just like a smidge here.
Maybe like right here.
And this, yeah, this,
Sorry, driving down.
yeah.
Like a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have to tell them where to thin out my hair. You, like you said, you feel it.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy, Christina? Like you felt it when you dried it, like the
Yeah.
difference.
Uh-huh.
And I like feel
Must be
it.
nice.
It's the
You
best.
have so much hair that you gotta go get some cut out.
Seriously, I mean, dude, I could donate my weight removal.
What are you up to these days? Are you still doing the nonprofit stuff?
Oh my gosh, man, God's taught me so many things right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
I'm
how
kinda
old's your
feel-
youngest now?
15 months.
Wow, you have she's already, or a year?
4 years. My baby girl, boy, 15 months.
Man, that's crazy. You're nuts.
We're moving to Rowlett,
Are you really?
September.
Is that exciting or is that
No, it's good. We bought a home there. So,
good? Were y'all renting here or?
no, we were selling our home here. We were
Okay.
trying not to, and God said, it's fine. So,
Cool. Hey, you sold it closer to the top.
we're selling it to our friends. Church.
Oh, good.
So,
Yo, I've seen pictures. It was cool.
yeah, it was a great house, but
Yep.
if we grew out of it, we were trying to hold on to it, and the Lord had different plans, and we just had to let us back.
That's the best way to go
Yeah.
about it.
Yes.
That wraps it up.